Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakacarya Ashtottara Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON BBT Samstapakacharya His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories, all glories, all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naranchaiva Narottama Devim Saraswati Vyasa Tato Jaya Mudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. So this morning we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 9, in the matter of answers by citing the Lord's version, text 24. Sṛjāmi tapasaivedaṁ grasāmi tapasā punaḥ bibharmi tapasā viśvaṁ vīryam me duścaraṁ tapaḥ sṛjāmi tapasaivedaṁ grasāmi tapasā punaḥ bibharmi tapasā viśvam vīryam me duścaram tapaḥ sṛjāmi tapasaivedaṁ grasāmi tapasā punaḥ bibharmi tapasā viśvam vīryam me duścaram tapaḥ, sṛjāmi tapasaivedaṁ, grasāmi tapasā punaḥ, bibharmi tapasā viśvam, vīryam me duścaram tapaḥ. sṛjāmi, I create. Tapasā, by the same energy of penance. Eva, certainly. Idam, this. Grasāmi tapasā, I do withdraw also by the same energy. Punaḥ, again. Bibharmi, do maintain. Tapasā, by penance. Viśvam, the cosmos. Vīryam, potency. Me, my. Duścaram, severe. Tapaḥ, penance. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Translation: I create this cosmos by such penance, and I maintain it by the same energy, and I withdraw it also by the same energy. Therefore, the potential power is penance only. Purport: in executing penance, one must be determined to return home back to Godhead and must decide to undergo all types of tribulations for that end. Even for material prosperity, name and fame, one has to undergo severe types of penance. Otherwise, no one can become an important figure in this material world. Why then are there severe types of penance for the perfection of devotional service? An easygoing life, an attainment of perfection and transcendental realization cannot go together. The Lord is more clever than any living entity. Therefore, He wants to see how painstaking the devotee is in devotional service. The order is received from the Lord either directly or through the bona fide spiritual master, and to execute that order, however painstaking, is the severe type of penance. One who follows the principle rigidly is sure to achieve success in attaining the Lord's mercy. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta Purport to Canto 2, Chapter 7, in the matter of answers by citing the Lord's version. Text 24. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shlakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Caitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakkamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsya Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Caitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Sri Mate Jayapataka Swamaniti Namine Nama Acharya Padaya Nitaikrapa Pradayine Gaurakata Dhamadaya Nagrikramatharine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Sri Mate Gopi Paradhanadase Iti Namine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Sri Mate Bhakti Vedanta Swamaniti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Paritanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam karoti vachalam bhangum langayate girim yatkripatamaham vande Shri Gurudaradharinam yatkripatamaham vande Paramananda Madhavam Shri Caitanya Ishwaram Katanchana smriti yasmin duścaraṁ sukaram bhavet smriti viparitam syat Sri Caitanyam namamitam. So, Lord Krishna is speaking to Lord Brahma, and today's verse, and especially the purport, may seem a little different than what we generally hear. Krishna consciousness so easy, but here Prabhupada is saying the Lord wants to see how painstaking the devotee is in devotional service. Yes, Krishna consciousness is easy, but there's a difference between the process being easy and being easygoing, as Prabhupada refers to here. He says an easygoing life and attainment of perfection in transcendental realization cannot go together. What does that mean? So does it mean that Krishna consciousness is no more easy, or what does it actually mean? Yes, Krishna consciousness is very easy. That is the beauty of Krishna consciousness. But one should practice Krishna consciousness with attention and intensity. All yogic processes are characterized by that single pointed focus, that intensity. Bhagavatam explains this as akama, sarvakama, mokshakama. Whatever you are, whether you're akama, sarvakama or mokshakama, the solution is, the prescription is tivrena bhakti yogena. So very intense devotional service. So in all yogic processes, the intensity is the core element of the practice. So that is true even in Krishna consciousness. The only difference between Krishna consciousness, or rather the big difference between Krishna consciousness and every other process is, our process has to be practiced with intensity, but it's easy. So easy and intense. So that's the combination that we are supposed to practice Krishna consciousness. Whereas in the other processes, it is difficult and you have to practice with intensity. So that's the difference, big difference. Because in the other processes, but yoga means to connect with the Lord. And yoga by definition means you have to perform it with intensity. Otherwise there's no meaning in yoga. So in the other processes, sensual experiences, emotional experiences and intellectual experiences are completely denied. I mean, you could say in Jnana Yoga to some extent there is some intellectual experience. But the idea is that any form of pleasure, whether it is sensual emotional or intellectual is denied. So that makes the process very difficult. Imagine sitting in a forest and meditating for thousands of years on the tip of your nose. That's it. And what happens? Very gradually, slowly, little by little, you develop some spiritual taste. Very little. That too, not even for the Supreme Personality of Godhead in this Bhagavan feature. Slowly you come to the Paramatma stage, very slowly. So much difficulty, the progress is very small compared to Krishna consciousness. In Krishna consciousness, we are not denied sensual experiences, emotional experiences, or even intellectual experiences. But, and this is a very big but, there lies a catch there. Prabhupada would say that the modern life is a deluxe edition of animal life, because animals are only interested in eating, sleeping, mating, defending. That's all. So Krishna consciousness, so that is not human life even. It's deluxe edition of animal life, modern civilization. Now we could turn our practice of Krishna consciousness into a Krishna conscious deluxe edition of animal life. How is that so? Because these sensual experiences, emotional experiences and intellectual experiences are meant to just make life easier for us. They are not the essence of Krishna consciousness. The essence of Krishna consciousness is spiritual experience. What do I mean by this? For example, let's take prasadam. So all of us like good tasting prasadam, right? That's fine. That's permissible. It's fine. But when it comes to take, for example, the plate of the Lord, the Mahaprasadam plate, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur had the standard, you mix everything, the sweet, the sour, the bitter, mix everything and distribute it, because prasadam is absolute. Now if we were given that process of ordering prasadam, how easy would that be for us? Very difficult, right? But prasadam is absolute. Prasadam is absolute. So, but are we in a state to receive it as absolute? No. So therefore, there is a concession that's made for us. Concession in the sense, okay, it's prepared in a certain tasty way and all that. But you can eat it in the prasadam halls and even at home without mixing all of it. Correct? Now, that's a good experience. It's Krishna conscious, but at the same time, you are getting a good sensual experience of it. It's permissible. But the essence is Mahaprasade Govinde, we chant the Mahaprasarira Vidyajal. What are we supposed to actually focus on? This is the Lord's mercy. Despite my limitations, the Lord is providing me mercy in the form of prasadam. How wonderful it is. So the goal is not to try, okay, today I got this variety of prasadam, tomorrow what will be the next variety, this variety. Then if there's less salt we complain, if there is more of something we complain. So we could get trapped in that whole concept of duality, because all sensual experiences, all emotional experiences, all intellectual experiences are characterized by duality of high and low, high and low, high and low, high and low, high and low. We are, however, permitted those experiences just to make our practice of bhakti easy. Of course, that does not mean that having prasadam is not purifying. All that I am saying is, yes, it is purifying. But if you want to get the full purifying benefit, then you have to focus on the aspect that it is Krishna prasadam. So the goal is not how to attain all the sensual pleasures, the emotional pleasures, the intellectual pleasures in a Krishna conscious manner. That is not the point of devotional service. If by executing the order of the spiritual master, these pleasures come, fine. If they don't come, also fine. This is the attitude of a devotee. This is called Krishna consciousness. This is called Bhakti Yoga. That Prabhupada is specifically saying this, that whatever order the spiritual master gives, one has to execute that order. Now, while executing the order, one may have a pleasure experience or not. But one is focused on executing the order. My spiritual master, His Holiness Jayapataka Maharaj, once wrote to Prabhupada that I like being in Sridham Mayapur and doing this seva here. Is this material attachment? So Prabhupada wrote back to him saying, you are very fortunate. Because that is the order which Prabhupada had given him. And he was finding it pleasurable also. So, but that need not be, of course, by his advancement, he was finding it pleasurable. But sometimes, even sensually, the experience may be easy for us if we are given an order to execute by the spiritual master. So we should not be choosing, okay, these orders which are easy to execute according to our sensual, mental and intellectual experiences, that we will take it up. Other orders, it's not so important. Because it's my nature, you see. It's my nature, what to do. Krishna says everybody should follow their nature, right? And engage in Krishna consciousness. That's a very preliminary stage of devotional service. Yes, you're permitted to do that in the preliminary stage of devotional service. But we should progress to come to the stage of actually carrying out the instruction of the spiritual master without being attached to the dualities of high and low and things like that. So, we can spend our whole life trying to attain sensual, mental and intellectual experiences in a Krishna conscious manner. That's not, then we miss out the whole point. Because all these experiences are characterized by duality. So therefore, if we wonder why are we feeling up and down or up and down, then we should think, what are we doing actually? What are we doing? Are we chanting our rounds with attention? Are we hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam with attention? Are we doing our process of bhakti with attention? Because the moment we practice Krishna consciousness with attention, immediately this hankering for sensual pleasure, emotional pleasure and intellectual pleasure, they diminish. Because the taste of bhakti, the spiritual experience, is overpowering. It's overpowering. So otherwise we may end up, okay, where are all the good places to eat in Mayapur? Okay, let me go here, let me go there. And we just constantly planning about all these activities. Then similarly, how to improve my economical condition. What is the best in Mayapur? Is it real estate? Is it shops? Is it what? So we can keep on our whole life getting trapped into these sensual, emotional and intellectual experiences in a Krishna conscious manner within the designation of Krishna consciousness. But we miss the point of going back to Godhead. We miss the point of attaining love of Godhead. So we should be careful that we should not get carried away by these be carried away by obsession with all these things. We should simply accept whatever comes of its own accord while executing the order of the spiritual master. Let me give you an analogy. Let's for example take, most of you must, I think all of you have studied mathematics. So you have x and y axis. Forget about the x axis now. You only have the y axis, right? So y axis, there's something called 0, then there's 1, 2, 3, it goes on up to infinity. Then below 0 you have -1, -2, -3, it goes on to -infinity. Now the soul by definition can experience only, experience means it's by its nature it experiences spiritual pleasure. Everything else is not natural, right? So when the soul comes to this material world, how can it have any meaningful experience? It becomes a dilemma, right? Because there's whatever is here is material experience. How can it have some meaningful experience? Therefore, the scriptures say, Prabhupada also explains very nicely, material happiness is dependent on material distress. Without material distress, there cannot be material happiness. So what is actually happening is, First of all, as Maya, it has two potencies, the covering potency and the throwing potency. So Maya throws us down. From 0 you go down, somewhere it is. We're somewhere in minus maybe 100. So from minus 100, when we reach minus 10, we think, oh, wonderful. I will not even reach 0. So this is the concept of duality. Without pain, there cannot be pleasure. For example, take for example eating, right? Without the hunger, without the urge to eat, you don't even feel the pleasure of eating. So every material happiness is embedded in the concept of duality. If there is no misery, there is no happiness. So we are constantly fluctuating between minus 100 to plus minus 10 or 0 even if you come to 0. You could say liberation. Anyway, so we are constantly oscillating in this minus y axis. So this axis oscillation can happen even in Krishna consciousness. But the beauty is when you order prasadam, you are progressing on the positive axis. But if you forget that, if you don't focus on that, we just think about the experience, oh this experience, I want this experience, I want that experience, we are missing the whole point altogether. That's why it is said that Shukadeva Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj, very nicely it's explained, when they were hearing Bhagavatam, they didn't need to eat, they didn't need to sleep, nothing. Because this is pure spiritual experience. Pure spiritual experience. And it's so strong that they're not bothered about eating, sleeping, nothing. And Prabhupada also explains this point very nicely, that ultimately we should come to the stage of 0, nil, he says, eating, sleeping, mating, defending. Which means, because all these are sensual experiences, emotional or intellectual experiences, I mean in an extended form. So we have to come to the platform where we are purely dependent on spiritual experience, and it's possible to sustain ourselves with pure spiritual experience. So Shukadeva Goswami is a proof of it. Parikshit Maharaj is a proof of it. Prabhupada himself is a proof of it. I mean, the way he would travel, he would not get affected by jet lag. Every day, like all his servants, secretaries say, wherever he was traveling in the world, his routine did not change. Whatever time of the day he would arrive or night he would arrive, he would get up exactly at 12 o'clock and start translating. Nothing. Morning walk he would go. Nothing. No change whatsoever. So this is the platform of pure spiritual experience. The body is just used to perform devotional service. The body is not being used to attain happiness and distress, these kinds of experiences. It's being used exclusively for the service of the Lord. So this is the concept of a devotional service that Prabhupada is talking about here. Easygoing life and attainment of perfection in transcendental relationship cannot go together. And there's another analogy. We have the nectar of devotion. It's called the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So it's the ocean is compared to Krishna consciousness. So we have to dive deep into that ocean. We have to dive deep into the ocean. When we dive deep into that ocean, then we can see a stunning variety of aquatic life. There is so much activity going on there, deep inside the waters. But we can also enjoy swimming on the waves, some surfing and swimming and things like that. So, in the name of Krishna consciousness, we could also be seeking Krishna conscious pleasures of sensual experiences, emotional experiences, and intellectual experience. But that's not the point. The point is to be focused on the practice of Krishna consciousness as ordered by the spiritual master. So, Prabhupada said the secret of his success was when he read Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's comments on the verse Vyavasayatmika Buddhir Ekeha Kurunandara. He took that as his life and soul. That the order of the spiritual master is the life and soul of the disciple. So we can also see this, that when we take Krishna consciousness with seriousness, then we are which means that when we attentively chant, when we attentively hear the Bhagavatam class, when we attentively do service, even family life for that matter, if we are conscious, what is the purpose of family life? The purpose of family life is to deal with everybody in the family in a loving manner, so that and give them Krishna consciousness, so that everybody, the family as a unit, progresses. So if the husband starts thinking that my wife is meant for my sense gratification, she should cook this, she should do this, she should do this for me, she should do all these kinds of, because it's all Vedic, she should do all of these things. It's fine, it's Vedic, I'm not saying that it's but the point is, that's not the point. The point is, how shall I serve my wife? Which means, how shall I help her progress in Krishna consciousness? Similarly, the wife is supposed to think, how shall I serve my husband? Right? So, there are Vedic prescribed duties, which are all meant for the family unit to grow together. But that's the purpose. The purpose is not sense gratification. The purpose is not enjoyment. The purpose is how the duties that are given in the Vedic times with husband and wife are meant so that the family as a unit progresses together. So, we don't find that Kardama Muni, after he takes up grahastha life, he doesn't say, so many thousands of years I was a brahmachari, what happened? I fell down, So let me get out of this as quickly as possible. That's not his mood. Rather, he takes up the responsibility seriously. He engages his wife, and together they engage in Krishna consciousness. Of course, they do so many other things which human beings cannot imitate, but they are performing devotional service together, and in a very responsible manner, Kardamuni practices devotional service along with his wife, then he exits. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur also, he sings in his song, Manasa Deho Geho Jokichumur Arpilu Tuapade Nanda Kishore. So, Prabhupada explains that whatever is mine is actually not mine. We think it is mine. Actually, it's Krishna's. So, that is the vision of a devotee, that he or she sees everything as Krishna's mercy, as manifestations of Krishna's mercy. So, they see the family also as a manifestation of Krishna's mercy to help us and also the family as a unit to progress in Krishna consciousness. This is the proper Krishna conscious vision, that whatever situation that we are in, how to utilize the situation for everybody's benefit, not for my sensual, mental and sensual, emotional and intellectual experience. That's fine. If it comes by executing your duty nicely, fine. Why not? Wonderful. But if it's not coming also, okay, this is the situation that Krishna has placed me in, let me just execute my duties in Krishna consciousness very nicely. So by this process of being attentive in one's service, whether it is chanting, whether it is hearing Bhagavatam, whether it is performing other services, whether it's family life, any situation, one has to be attentive to perform devotional service. That is the meaning of saying easygoing life and attainment of perfection and transcendental realization cannot go together. In fact, Prabhupada writes earlier in the Bhagavatam, we saw that one can see Krishna in every page of the Bhagavatam. He says that if one hears with rapt attention. So this rapt attention is very, very important, because there itself Prabhupada explains why it is how this rapt attention can be attained. So he says that no one can hear with rapt attention who is not purified in mind. And then he says, no one can be pure in mind who is not pure in action. And then he says, no one can be pure in action if one is not pure in eating, sleeping, mating and defending. So this eating, sleeping, mating and defending, we have the 4 regulative principles. These are not just some moral principles. Oh, Krishna likes it like this, so therefore we have to do it. What to do. It's not like that. These are principles of knowledge, principles of experience, Because if we are pure, this is a scientific thing, it's not just a moral principle. Because if we are pure in the habits of eating, sleeping, mating, defending, then we are pure in mind. If we are pure in mind, we can hear with rapt attention. So there's a direct scientific connection between our ability to be attentive and our everyday activities. So therefore, everything that is given to us in Krishna consciousness is very scientific. It is all meant to increase our absorption in Krishna consciousness. So if we understand it and practice it accordingly, then we definitely make very swift progress. As I was explaining, the difference between the other processes and our processes, we have huge, humongous, voluminous amount of happiness that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu provides. But in the other processes, it's very difficult. With little, small happiness. But we have so much abundance of happiness. But to get that abundance of happiness, one has to be attentive. And of course, happiness is not the goal, it comes as a byproduct. But one has to be attentive in one's practice of devotional service. So attentive Krishna consciousness is the key. And when we practice attentive Krishna consciousness, all of us would have that experience. When we chant attentively, when we practice devotional service attentively, then material pleasures seem very insignificant, very insignificant. We are not carried away by the dualities of high and low, and pain and pleasure, and victory and defeat, and that the very process of Krishna consciousness provides us nourishment. So we are not trying to get nourishment through some victories and pleasurable experiences and things like that. The very experience of bhakti itself provides nourishment. And a very key element of that, of being attentive, is to practice Krishna consciousness in the association of devotees. So without the association of devotees, it's very difficult. Of course, if one is not in a situation where one is, there are not many devotees to associate with, still one can associate with, this is both the book Bhagavata and also the person Bhagavata, because Prabhupada writes that the Bhaktivedanta purports are his personal ecstasies. So one can associate with Srila Prabhupada and the previous acharyas, and in fact including the characters in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the personalities, if one can just read with, as Prabhupada says, submission and attentively. Even if attentiveness is difficult, but if one can take up the process of regularly reading Srimad Bhagavatam, then one can feel nourished by the association of Srila Prabhupada and the previous acharyas and all the great personalities in the Srimad Bhagavatam. This becomes a world of its own. The Brave New World. In fact, that's a famous novel called Brave New World. But this is the real Brave New World, where you have a whole world of experience. In fact, the material world is just 1/4 of the creation. The whole material world, in fact, not just our universe. Our universe is like one mustard seed in a whole bag of mustard seeds. And there are Brahmas with hundreds and thousands of heads. Our Brahma is the smallest Brahma. So, the world that we are living in is very tiny. There's a massive, inconceivable spiritual world. There are activities constantly going on, constant activities, constant festival, where every step is a dance, every word is a song. This is going on. This is what our acharyas have come. This is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come to give us. Golokera premadana haridam sakirtan. So our life is, if we practice attentively, then it is a festival every day. Prabhupada calls it the great transcendental adventure. Now these are not like some bombastic words which Prabhupada uses. This is, we can realize this in everyday life. These are all very profound, very meaningful, very tangible words actually. which we can experience it by practicing devotional service attentively. Anybody, not just for a certain class of people or a certain who got some previous piety and nothing. Anybody who just takes up this process of devotional service can experience it. So this is the meaning of saying that as he says here, that he wants to see, the Lord is more clever than any living entity, therefore he wants to see how painstaking the devotee is in devotional service. When it says painstaking, it does not necessarily mean how much continuously is going through some pain. That's not the meaning. Painstaking means you're willing to take pain, even if it means pain, to execute the order of the spiritual master. In fact, there's no such thing as constant pain all the time. It's never like that. The idea is that focus, the intensity, the determination, yes, I will do whatever is needed to practice, to execute the order of the spiritual master. For example, Prabhupada would say, Prabhupada was once taking a walk, I forget which country it is, some European country, or maybe even America, where he saw that there was a young woman in miniskirts. And Prabhupada and also saw that they were book distributors. Prabhupada looked at them, at the young woman, and he looked at the devotees and said, they are doing their business, we are also doing our business. And that's what Prabhupada is right to say here, that if for material prosperity, name and fame, one has to undergo severe types of penance. So even for sense gratification, people undergo so many different kinds of things. So why not for spiritual life? Why not? In fact, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that the difficulties that he faces in executing devotional service are sources of great pleasure. Great pleasure. This is what happens when we advance in devotional service. We experience this. Oh, how fortunate we are that we have an order from the spiritual master. How fortunate we are that we have orders from Srila Prabhupada, distribute books. So we have so many orders from Srila Prabhupada. Then as we progress, we begin to see how fortunate we are. And the test is when we wake up every day morning in Mayapur, do we think, this is Mayapur Dham, how fortunate I am. In fact, there is someone who is like this, in Mayapur actually thinks like this. So this is how our consciousness should be. Our life, what kind of life are we leading? Amazing life. We have opportunity for coming early in the morning to the temple, attending Mangalarti, dancing, singing with the devotees. We have Srimad Bhagavatam. We have, of course, Guru Puja, Srimad Bhagavatam. Then we have a whole day of service. So if we just realize the value of that, then we are properly absorbed in Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, we'll simply pursue this duality of eating, sleep, dualities of high and low, sensual experiences, emotional experiences, intellectual experiences in the name of Krishna consciousness. So we have a deluxe edition of animal life which the materialists are practicing. Let's not turn Krishna conscious lives into a Krishna conscious deluxe edition of animal life. Rather, let's focus on what Srila Prabhupada has come to give us. Golokera Prevadana Haridara Sankirtan. Let's perform this devotional service with attentiveness. And when we do that, we see how powerful that experience is, that all other experiences pale in significance to that. Of course, sometimes we may think we have that experience sometimes, but again, the other experiences are trying to overwhelm us, right? We have other experiences. Why is it not as spontaneous as the other experiences? Because we have been conditioned in this material universe for millions and millions of lifetimes. So it's natural that sense gratification is spontaneous for us. Therefore, we practice the process of sadhana bhakti. We have experienced great happiness in Krishna consciousness. So our acharyas have prescribed, okay, you experienced it. That's Lord Chaitanya's mercy. Right at the beginning we experience so much. Even now, every day we experience. But we have to keep it up. So the sadhana bhakti is the process of keeping up that experience. And eventually, we will come to the stage of spontaneity. So when Krishna consciousness becomes spontaneous, then the spontaneity of sense gratification becomes very pale, very pale. So all this is a very scientific process. So if science has to be practiced according to the scientific literature. So if we have to experience whatever is there in the scripture, we need to read scripture. For us, it means the Bhakti Shastras, which means the Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam is our main book. Of course, Bhagavad Gita, Caitanya, the idea is that we have to perform bhakti according to the prescriptions of bhakti given in the Bhaktivedanta purports. These are not jnana. These are not jnana. This is not the process of jnana. This is the chit shakti. Chit shakti. The process of chit shakti is knowledge. So this is not some jnana of the material mind. This is a manifestation of the chit shakti of the Lord. So we are coming in contact with the chit shakti of the Lord by contacting the Srimad Bhagavatam and by contacting the Bhaktivedanta purports, and which impels us to practice bhakti, which also brings us in touch with the Hladini potency. So these are all integrated. So we cannot think, okay, it's not important to read, it's a jnana, just have to perform some seva. It's not like that. We have to perform bhakti according to the prescriptions of bhakti. It is not just some dry prescription. This the chit shakti illuminating our consciousness. So with the chit shakti illuminating our consciousness, we have to perform bhakti. Then we are properly situated in the process of Krishna consciousness. Okay, I think I've tried to explain to the best I can within the time allotted. If there are any comments or questions. Yes, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for your nice lecture and realization. In the purport, there is one line very interesting. Why then should there not be severe types of penances for the perfection of devotional services?
Yes.
Now, the severe types of penances, what Prabhupada wanted to tell, that I want to know.
That was explained in the earlier purports, the last few purports, that for us the penance is called Bhakti Yoga. I mean, it's called a penance. I mean, it's so easy, so nice, but it's called a penance. Prabhupada explains. For Krishna, for us, it means the penance of Bhakti Yoga, which means you have to practice it with intensity. That's the idea. Yes, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, thank you for the class. Here in the translation, it's written, the Lord says, I create this cosmos by such penance. So in our case, when we perform penance, it is like some kind of, we can say, according to my experience, it's some kind of suffering we are going through. But the Lord is always enjoying. So how can we say that the Lord is performing penance? Like, it's like, I feel that I understand this as contradictory. How is it that the Lord is doing penance?
No, it does not say that he is doing penance. And if you look at the word by word meaning, you look at tapasā. He says that by the same energy of penance. So the Lord is not doing penance. He is creating the cosmos by the energy of penance. It's acting subordinate to him. Yes, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. What does it exactly mean, intensifying devotional services? Is increasing the quantity or quality or both?
Okay, what does it mean, intensifying devotional? Does it mean increasing the quantity or quality or both? First of all, it's quality. But if you want to increase the quantity, it has to be done under guidance, under the direction of the spiritual master or superiors whom the spiritual master has designated. For example, if you go to, say, I'm not saying you, just generally, if you go to lift weights, you know, somebody may have the desire to lift 100 kilos all at once. I don't know what are the scales. Anyway, some huge weight at one shot. It's not possible. So first of all, there will be experienced people there who would first of all assess what is the level at which you are at. And they'll tell you, now you lift this much, then you lift more, then you lift more. Finally, they will help you attain that goal of lifting that weight. So quantity is normally not decided by us, except the standard. There's something called standard quantity, which is attending the morning programs, and those kind of things are general. Then there is specific. That specific quantity has to be increased, or the level of this thing has to be determined by somebody who is experienced. Otherwise, they have to consider all the factors. What is the level at which you are at, and accordingly they will prescribe. Okay, this is appropriate for you. You do these kind of things. Don't do this kind of thing. So what is true for one devotee may be not true for somebody else. Just like in a school, right? You have different grades. Everybody is a student. Everybody is considered as a bona fide student. It is not that students in lower grade, let's say grade 1, the 10th grade students, they look down upon, hey, what are the useless guys? Of course, sometimes the kids are, but I'm just saying in general, the school doesn't look down upon them. As far as the school is concerned, okay, you're passed out now, you're going to pass out now from school, others also will grow and pass out. For the school teachers and school, it's just, yeah, you're at a certain level, so what? You can also progress, everybody can pass out of the school. So like that, there is no need for us to be ashamed of what we are. We are what we are, but everybody can attain the goal. So we don't have to necessarily look at somebody else and try to increase our quantity. We have to increase our quantity under the direction of the spiritual master or a superior who is designated by the spiritual master or other superiors. Okay, so there are no questions, further questions. Okay, we'll stop here. Thank you all very much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande.